James Kochalka is a writer, artist, musician, and cartoon master who earned the title Cartoonist Laureate of Vermont in March of 2011, the first time the state awarded this prestigious honor. The title acknowledged Kochalka's wit, invention, and diversity in his chosen corner of literary endeavor. He's an artist who courageously crosses the borders between genres in his prolific works and, as a result, provides something for readers of every age to enjoy. He is well known for American Elf, which ran from October 1998 until December of 2012. These strips were first written as the Sketchbook Diaries and published by Top Shelf Productions. Each day, American Elf fans eagerly awaited one of Kochalka's new comics depicting his realistic everyday life with his family and friends. Among his other varied and numerous creations are Dragon Puncher, Johnny Boo, and Super something. Begins with an F and ends with CKERS. Many of Kochalka's playful and witty songs from his albums, which he records as James Kochalka Superstar, bear some of the same titles and give life and depth to his comics. James is noted far and wide for the song Hockey Monkey, which he played with the group The Zambonis and became the theme song for the Fox TV series The Loop. In addition to his cartoon laureate title, Kochalka has been awarded 4 Ignatz Awards and the Harvey Award for his highly original work. He completed his undergraduate studies in art at the University of Vermont and then received his master's in art at the Maryland Institute College of Art. He works at the Center for Cartoon Studies located in White River Junction and resides in Burlington with his wife Amy and their 2 sons, whom we somehow feel like we know. Please join me in giving a warm Burlington Book Festival welcome to James Kochalka.
Thank you. Up here on the screen right now are a bunch of photocopied mini comics that I made in the 90s. But before I talk about these, I'm going to go back to the very beginning when I first started drawing comics. My mom says that I started before. Sure. Can you guys see the screen? There's like a light shining right on the screen, unfortunately. But uh-huh. Yeah. Well, I'll keep talking. My mom says that I started drawing comics before I could write, and then I was just making little scratchy marks in the word balloons. I don't actually remember that far back, but I do remember starting to draw comics in the 3rd grade. And the thing that inspired me in particular, I mean, I had read a lot of comics, like I liked Peanuts and a lot of classic newspaper strips, and I liked the Casper the Friendly Ghost comics and Richie Rich and all of those. But what actually inspired me to start drawing comics that I remember was a fire safety guide that I got that the fire department had handed out at the home show in Springfield, Vermont. And it wasn't even a comic, but it had a cartoon character and a little cartoon dog that was giving fire safety tips. For some reason, that was the thing that really set me off. I created dozens of comic characters shortly after receiving that pamphlet. So then I was drawing comics, and I was drawing comics with my my best friend, and we used a lot of the same characters, the 2 of us. But it wasn't enough for me to simply draw them. I really wanted to share them with other people. Then in 5th grade, I got the idea that I would draw a comic book to give away to my classmates on Valentine's Day. So I thought I would. So I came up with my comic. I drew the first one. There were about 20 kids in the class. So I drew one, and then I drew another copy of the exact same book, and then I drew another copy of the exact same book. And when I started to get around like maybe 10 copies, I was crying because I knew that there was no way I was going to be able to finish 20 copies of the book by the next day, which is Valentine's Day. And so my mom helped me. She helped me draw the rest of them. So she drew in my style, which wasn't that hard because I was just a little kid. And I actually couldn't tell the difference between her drawings, her copies of my book, and my own copies of my book. So we drew 20 copies of the book by hand together, my mom and I. And I consider that my first published work, all 20 copies drawn by hand. But I figured there had to be a better way. So then I discovered carbon paper. When I was lecturing yesterday at the Champlain College, none of the college students had any idea what carbon paper was. But I'll explain it to you, but I'm sure a lot of you guys know. Carbon paper is a thin sheet of paper, and one side of it is covered with like a thick layer of ink. So if you put a piece of paper and a piece of carbon paper with the ink facing down and another piece of paper underneath, and you press hard on the top layer, you'll make another copy of your drawing on the bottom piece of paper. And then I discovered that if you layered paper, carbon paper, paper, carbon paper, paper, carbon paper, paper, you could make a couple copies of your original if you pressed very hard. And pretty much the limit was you could have your original and maybe 3 more copies. So I'd have my original to keep and then 3 copies that I could sell to kids at school. And at the time I was drawing with ballpoint pens. You could press pretty hard with a ballpoint pen, like a Bic ballpoint pen. So this was in the 70s. The Springfield Town Library got a photocopy machine. Suddenly there was an easier way to make copies of my work. But I had to change the way I drew. Ballpoint pen doesn't photocopy that well, so I changed to a nice black felt tip marker, the Flair felt tip marker. I thought was the best at the time, and that line photocopied really, really well. But photocopies were expensive, so I still couldn't make too many. Until high school, my best friend, same best friend that I was drawing comics with back when I started in 3rd grade, his dad was a minister and had his office in his house, which was 2 houses down the street from us. And he had a photocopy machine right there in his house, in his office. And we had pretty much unfettered access to it. So we started publishing in earnest then, making hundreds of copies of our comic books and selling them to kids at school. And all paid for by the church. And then, I stopped when I went to college. I stopped drawing comics for a few years until my senior year, and I started drawing a strip in the Vermont Cynic. Myself and my girlfriend, now my wife, Amy, and my friend Eric, started drawing this comic together called Seaweed Man, which we did for a year, and then I continued on with another comic called Dead Bear Circus Detective. But so that, I don't know, it was, but at some point, later, after that, after I had been running that strip for a long time, I started to discover that there were other people out there in the world also making comics, like other young people like myself. And I noticed that they were making the same kind of comics that I had been making when I was a kid, which was photocopied comic books folded in half. So these are the bigger ones are 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper folded in half and then stapled on the side. So I got one of these comic books that somebody had made, and in the back, it also listed what they called plugs, which were somebody saying, like, these are the other comics that I like. And they listed other people's homemade comic books. And it would be like a small piece of the art and like a single panel of the comic and a description of the comic and an address and how much money you needed to send to get this comic. So I didn't want to pay for them. But I sent my own comic to them and offered to trade. And then everybody did trade. And they wrote back letters about my comic, what they thought was good about it or what they thought was lacking about it. But each one of their comics also had in the back a list of plugs of other comics. And I wrote to all those people and sent them my comic book. And pretty soon I was corresponding every month with hundreds of cartoonists all over the country. And some of those, and then people started ordering my comics too, not just other cartoonists, but just other comics readers. And at the same time, I was also sending out work to try and find a publisher and being rejected by everybody. Yet I was receiving letters from people saying how fantastic my comics were, but whatever was fantastic about my comics was not something that the publishers were picking up on at all. Until a few of my readers, inspired by my comics, decided to become publishers and then wrote to me and asked me if they could publish my books. So the publisher Top Shelf that I still work with today, I was the very first thing they ever published. So I kind of feel like I created my own destiny. I had to first change the world to make it a place that could possibly publish me before I could get published. I had to inspire someone. Now, the first one at the top is probably just a few pages long, like maybe 8 pages long or 16 pages long or something like that. But by the time we get down to that little square one, James Kochalka Superstar number 9, The Perfect Planet, that's basically a graphic novel. It's like an 80-page book, one single story. And around the same time, I started to get published, too, with my graphic novels. I'll come back to this later. I want to read some other. I'm going to read some stuff before I'm just doing too much talking now. And that's not working. How do I go to the next image? Okay. So I started drawing a daily diary comic strip. Actually, maybe I need to go back. This is not easy to go back and forth. I don't understand this computer. Anyhow, for 14 years, I've drawn this this comic strip called American Elf, which is my diary. And every day I draw a comic strip about something that happened to me that day. And so this guy with the big ear, and that's me. And this little girl is she's a friend of my son. I guess I've drawn her as some kind of duck or something. I'm not sure. I draw myself as an elf. I can see you're trying to grow some hair, but you should grow it a little faster. Ladies like it better that way. It's okay, I don't need hair. Ladies like me because I'm famous. Oh. Oh no. I've skipped one. Oh well, I'll read this one. Discovery. Amy, check out how long this one crazy armpit hair is. No. I'm gonna measure it. 8 1/4 inches. I discovered when I was like a teenager, like 18 or 19, I had this new wave haircut that came down in a long, it was shaved on the sides and it came down long in the front. And then one day I just like swooped it back and noticed I had one long eyebrow hair that was down in the bangs. It was like an 8-inch eyebrow hair. And now I have to remember to cut it every so often or it would continue to grow. If I was going to be a Buddhist monk or something, I could probably, I could shave everything except that one eyebrow hair and see how long I could grow it. Memory smash. Visiting my hometown, there's too many memories. So I went into the woods and smashed stuff. And there's my son Eli watching me. Now, I don't tell you what those things are that I'm thinking of, but you can tell it's something, right? Fading sparkle. We thought he was going to die again. Dad, I love you so much. Thank you. Do you want to sing with me? Yes. Songs sung. Boobuki. Okay, so my dad did pass away last fall. This was the spring before that fall. He had Alzheimer's, so he did not remember much. He did not really remember who I was, but he did remember, he did always love to sing. And Boobuki is a Russian folk song that he loved. And the other songs were just the simplest songs that I could think of that I thought he would remember. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, Rise and Shine, Row, Row, Row Your Boat. And then we also ad-libbed a bunch of songs, which I like to do every day. I write songs just by walking around the house singing songs to myself. Hypnomind, staring into the fire, hypnotized. I just feel so incredibly sad that I can't seem to escape the prison of my mind. When will I be free? Breathers. Oh my God, would you stop breathing for no reason? Every time you breathe, I have to start the paragraph over. I'm sorry, I'll try to breathe less from now on. Easter dinner. Okay, I'm just going to skip ahead, but that's got my wife naked in it. The way I'm able to get away with drawing my wife naked in my comic strip is that she does not actually read my work. So she doesn't know. That tail sucks. This is my cat, Spandy. She's 19 years old. And this is Oliver. He must have been 4 at the time the strip was drawn. Fluffy tail. Yeah, but it's not that fluffy. Uh-huh, but it's still fluffy. Yeah, could be fluffier. Paper bird. I always sort of imagine that I'm in some kind of competition with Walt Whitman and Thoreau. Anyhow, paper bird. A magazine on the sidewalk was flapping its wings like a bird in the wind. After I do this strip, I just, on a hunch, decided, I went into Photoshop and I cut out the individual drawings of the magazine, and then I made a little animation out of it. And it worked pretty well for unplanned animation. It did look like it was flapping its wings. Flavor field. Don't eat ketchup with your finger. Oh no, how did I do that? How did I do that? I skipped ahead way too far. I have no idea how to go back. Maybe if I press Control L again. And then press this up arrow. Yeah. Okay. And then I'll press Control L1. Oh, no, no, no. But there's the arrows on the number pad that don't seem to do anything. Oh, I'm supposed to use these arrows. Oh, okay. There's 2 sets of arrows. There's actually probably like 4 or 5 sets of arrows. Okay, now I know how to use it. Sorry, everybody. Oh, I tried to use the wrong set of arrows again. There. Okay, so you see I draw myself as an elf, right? And I drew that little girl at the beginning that I knew was some other kind of creature, and I think a duck. I draw my wife as an elf. My children, when they were born, I drew as humans. They're the only characters in the strip that I drew as humans. Although when my son Eli turned maybe 9, he said, "Dad, I think I'm old enough to be drawn with elf ears now." And so I started drawing him with elf ears. But everyone else in the world, like the people that are not my close friends or just standers-by, I draw as these kind of formless blob guys, which just signifies they're part of the vast horde of humanity and not that important to the story. But their presence is important, so they are there. It's really like, I don't really think about it much when I'm drawing it, but if I think about it very strongly, it seems like a really arrogant way to think about the entire rest of the world. But flutteringly. Okay, here's one of my ones where I'm trying to go head to head with Walt Whitman, but I often like to subvert it. Flutteringly. Lying on the grass, staring up at the sky, watching the trees and their fluttering baby leaves, basking in the warm spring sun and gentle breeze. I wish I was online, but this is nice too. I'll skip that one because it's got a swear in it. Box of fun. I'm the mustache robot. Well, this has got swears in it too, but I'll still read it. Early in my career, whenever I would read some critic's criticism of my work, I would then focus my efforts to increase and intensify whatever it was that they disliked about it. People always say, do what you love, or be true to yourself. But how do you figure out, well, it's going to go on TV, so I guess I can't swear, right? Can you beep it out? Okay. Oh, you do? Okay. People always say, do what you love or be true to yourself. But how do you figure out what the fuck that means? Just do shit. That's how you figure out what to do. An example of taking a critic's criticism of my work and then going further in that direction of the thing that most annoyed them about my work. This whole strip is evidence of that. American Elf. Part of the reason why I started drawing American Elf was because people would criticize my stories for not really having any story at all, for just sort of meandering around and being plotless. But I really felt like the way that a story is structured with the beginning, middle, and end does not express very clearly what it really feels like to be human and to live your life. Because the real stories in your life, there's really like thousands, millions of stories happening at once. And they all sort of intertwine around each other, and some of them just stop. Some fade away, some stop abruptly, only to return days or months or years later. Suddenly you find that same story has not ended, right? So I thought the only way to possibly get at that feeling would be to draw a daily strip, a diary strip. So I ended up doing that for 14 years. I did stop on New Year's Eve of 2012. The final battle. I hope I die in my sleep when I'm an old man. Really? Because I'd rather die falling into an active volcano while battling a giant robot. So in addition to drawing strips about my family, I also like to draw comics for my family. There are 5 Johnny Boo books out about a little ghost and his best friend and pet ghost Squiggle. This book is not out yet. This book, Johnny Boo Zooms to the Moon, will be out next summer. And pretty much the whole reason I drew this particular book is because, whenever I make public appearances at schools, the kids always say 2 things. They want to see Johnny Boo ride a skateboard, and then, alternately, they ask if I could do a story about Johnny Boo going to the moon. So I thought, well, why not do a story about Johnny Boo going to the moon on a skateboard? The books are they're drawn really specifically for my own 2 boys, Eli and Oliver. In that I draw a rough draft, right, of a chapter, which is just quickly drawn in pencil. And then I read that to them as a bedtime story. And then based on their reaction, I either go back and make some changes, pump up the funny, or also based on their reaction, decide what's going to happen next in the story. And then after I've tested it on them for some period of time, then I draw the final version. And I will read you I'll read you the first chapter of this book that will not come out for about another year. Chapter 1. Are you ready to zoom to the moon on your skateboard, Johnny Boo? I'm ready, Squiggle. Then brace yourself. This is going to be amazing. Straight to the moon. 3, 2, 1. Zoom! Haha, zoom, zoom, zoom. Are you having fun, Johnny Boo? Or is it too scary fast? Should I zoom slower, Johnny Boo? Actually, we're not really zooming that fast at all, Squiggle. We're kind of just zooming perfectly still. Oh. Hey, why don't you try using your Squiggle power? Okay, Johnny Boo, that might actually work. Good idea. Squiggle power, zoom! Zoom, Squiggle, swish, roar! Yeah, nope, it's not working. Huff, huff, huff. I can do it! Roar! Squiggles never give up. Hey, we're starting to move. You're really doing it. Keep pulling, Squiggle. I can almost taste that moon ice cream already. Me too, Johnny Boo. Huff, huff, huff. Swish, swish, roll, roll, roll. So that's the first chapter. Do you think they make it to the moon like that? I'll show you the first page of the second chapter. They've fallen asleep. Another kids' book series that there are two Dragon Puncher books out, Dragon Puncher and Dragon Puncher Island. Now, this is my cat Spandy in a robot battle suit. So that same cat that I drew the strip about in American Elf. Now, when Eli was born, Spandy was already a pretty old cat. She's 19 now, so she would have been like 10 or something. No, she would have been like, 9 or something when he was born, I guess. But she was pretty mad that that this screaming baby came home, and she hid under the bed for 3 days, and she was not going to come out at all. I had to force her out. And after that, she pretty much has always hated him, and then hated Oliver, too, when he was born. So I thought it would be really funny to make them a superhero team. Actually, she likes them now. Now that she's gone deaf, she seems to like them just fine. I think that maybe she was scared of their high-pitched voices, because I noticed that she liked men, women she hated, children really, really hated, and then other cats really, 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 really hated. So maybe it was a size thing. Maybe now that they're getting bigger, she hates them less. So that's my son Eli. Excuse me, tap, tap, tap. Now Eli, when he was little, he when he was like a baby, he liked to suck on a wooden spoon. So his name is Eli. He liked to suck on a wooden spoon. I gave him the nickname Spoony E. So that's his name in this book. It's also like his rap name. Excuse me, tap, tap, tap. Now what? Would you like me to save your life again? I can use my spoonie. Oh, also, this is from like the middle of the book. This is like page 17. Enough! Hey, that's my private property. Here's what I think of your useless spoonie. Snap. No! Now leave me alone. You broke my little wooden spoonie spoon. Gosh. What? I mean, what? Are you going to cry now? No. But I think maybe you are. Blarg! The dragon's here. And that's me. I'm the dragon. So then I did another one, Dragon Puncher Island. And I won a Eisner Award for this book, which I think I won just because people were amazed at the title. We got another cat, right? So I had to draw another book. Although, I can't quite remember the order of events. I think we decided to get another cat so I could have a new character for the new book. And that actually may be the reason why we had a second child, too. I needed another character, an American Elf. And the background is Monhegan Island in Maine, which is one of our favorite vacation spots. That's a very, that rock in the background is giant, and it's called Gull Rock. I think the gulls used to hang out there, but they haven't hung out there for like a couple decades. They hang out at a different part of the island now. So they should change the name. No Gull Rock. I also like to design games. This is like a version of chess that I designed. And the pieces move differently than they move in chess. Also, I came up with different patterns for them. But also, the length that they move, the distance that they move is based on a dice roll. Also, when they attack each other, they roll dice, and then you also roll dice to defend, and the higher dice roll wins. And the defending pieces, there are pieces that specialize in defense. I can't reach to show you which ones are which, but it doesn't matter. The pieces that specialize in defense, they will defend with a 20-sided die, but if they attack with a 6-sided die. And then there are other ones that specialize in attacking, and if they attack with a 20-sided die, and if they defend with a 6-sided die. So obviously, if you attack a defender, an attacker attacking a defender is actually they're actually equally matched in that battle because it's a 20-sided die rolling against a 20-sided die. But there are other ones that are more evenly balanced that both attack and defend with a 10-sided die. Well, and it gets more complicated after that. But I call this game Glorkian chess. I also just came up with an idea for a video game that I wanted to make. Here it's called Planet versus Planet. This is the first drawing I did of it, but I later decided to change the name to Glorkian Warrior, which is the name of the little character there down at the bottom. Now, in this game, it's what you would call a 2D platformer, which means you have a little character that jumps on platforms, basically. And as you go higher and higher up, gravity gets weaker and weaker and weaker, so your jumps would get bigger and bigger and bigger until you reach the halfway point, and then there's another planet above you. So the gravity would flip that way and then get stronger and stronger and stronger until you get to the other side. So I actually started making this game with a company called Pixel Jam. And here is one of the hand-drawn levels that I made for the game. And we worked on this game for quite a long time. Well, we've been working on it for about 4 or 5 years. But we worked on it in this version for about 2 years, and I drew many, many levels, dozens of levels. And then they decided this game is taking too long, and they kept adding new features to it and stuff. And then they decided that we needed to make a simpler version of the game. So originally, this game we thought we could finish in like 2 months. So after 2 years, we realized we had somehow missed that 2-month deadline, and we needed to start over with a simpler version. So we came up with a new version that was simpler that we thought we could finish in 2 months. And then a year later, we realized we have really missed this second 2-month deadline. And we said, well, let's come up with a really, really, really simple version. And we did come up with a really, really simple version. We're like, this version is so simple, we think we can finish it in 2 weeks. Now it is about 6 months later, and we are actually pretty close to finished. The game is called It's called Glorkian Warrior: The Trials of Glork, and should be out on iPad and iPhone at the end of November. But anyhow, during this 4 or 5 year period where I was working on this game, I drew a graphic novel about the character called The Glorkian Warrior Delivers a Pizza. And I submitted this book to the publisher First Second, which is a pretty new publisher, but it's an imprint of a much bigger mainstream publisher. And anyhow, the publisher guy, brought the book home to his kids. He had elementary school kids, and let them read it. And they declared it the stupidest book they had ever read. And so I got a publishing deal. But it completely took over their lives, they said. The lines from the book and stuff entered their daily vocabulary. So anyhow, I had done this one book, and it probably took me 3 years to draw this book. It's about 112 pages. Then they decided, because as the book made the rounds through the company, people got more and more excited about it, and they decided they wanted me to draw 2 more books. Now, this book is going to come out in March 2014. And this spring, in the spring, they decided they wanted me to draw another one. And they wanted that book to be done by November. So I drew the rough draft, and then I submitted it, and then made some minor adjustments. But all that took a while. So suddenly it's like August, and I have to draw this it's about 120 pages. I have to draw 120 pages by November. So the first book took 3 or 4 years. The second book is taking it's going to be like 3 months. So I have to draw really, really hard. Anyhow, I have some pages from the second book. So the first book, Glorkian Warrior Delivers a Pizza, there's the Glorkian warrior. He's got this intelligent backpack that shoots lasers out the top. And he meets some friends on his journey. And in book 2, the guys that he meets on his journey, well, they're not friends when he meets them, but now they're his friends. Now, this is kind of a domestic scene. They're all just sort of hanging around in the Glorkian warrior's house. Now, this little guy on the right, his name is Gonk. He's like a little kid. And then that green thing in the upper left is a baby alien that sucks the Glorkian warrior's brains out, kind of like nurses on the top of his head, sucking his brains out. And Glorkian warrior and Gonk have just had an argument because Glorkian warrior accidentally poked Gonk in the eye with his elbow. And then they had a giant fight about who should apologize to who. Should Glorkian warrior apologize to Gonk for poking him in the eye? Should his elbow apologize to the eyeball, or should the eyeball apologize to the elbow? And then they accidentally knocked over the couch, and now they have decided that that is actually good, and they're going to rearrange the furniture. And that's where we are here. Chapter 3. This will be awesome. You'll love it, Super Backpack. My chair. Yay! Your chair. Isn't it cool? Not really. It's just sideways. Mr. Elbow is sideways, and he's cool. One time, Gonk ate an ice cream cone sideways. Right? Right? And you're the coolest kid I know. Ice cream fell off into the dirt. What a cool story. Oh, you know what else is cool? What? The refrigerator. Hey. We could even put the hyper fridge on top of the couch. Why? Never ask your elbow why. That would be ridiculous. Pickle mush. Just do what the elbow tells you and you'll be super cool. But elbows don't have butts. They're elbows. Silly backpack. Now, I'll just pick up the refrigerator with my elbow and tap, tap, tap. Nothing happened. Weird. Don't worry. Eyeball can do it. Poink. Ow. I also draw a strip for 7 days called Fungus that runs each week, and it's a continuing story about a bunch of mushroom guys. I'll read you a couple of these. So this little, on the top panel, there's a little mushroom guy eating leaves. He is trying to teach the mushroom guy on the right how to party. And right now, he's showing him how to eat party snacks. And this guy between them, he has a puddle that he thinks is his computer. And when leaves fall into the puddle, he thinks he's getting emails. So, God sends us email because he loves us. It's disgusting to waste them like that. Nom, nom, nom. Email? What the baby duck is an email? Oh, you know, they go in your computer, and when you check them, there they are. Boring. Sounds lame. No, you don't understand. That's because I'm not a boring lame-o. I'm the party master, and boring lame-os aren't invited. Go away. No one likes you. If no one likes me, then why do I get so many emails? Because you're stupid. Duh. I'm just standing here. So that was one strip in the paper. Each of the, if I collect these in a book, the 2 pages will face each other, and in the newspaper, they're on top of each other as a tall strip. So that was 1 week, and then the next week, blah. Oh, I'll send you an email. Hey, watch it. Right in the face. Pow. And another. Ow. How you like emails now, fool? I think they pretty much suck. And so that's that puddle. See, like, you'd have to be reading the strip every week and actually paying attention because in the spring, you know, you got the explanation that the puddle is the computer. And people reading it now probably don't remember that. But there he is in the other guy's computer. So that's all I have to read. I'd love to take some questions now. Does anybody have questions? sure you do. Yes.
Do you ever get blocked where you can't think of anything?
Well, I try to kind of teach myself not to do that. And what is the way to not do that? Well, I'll tell you what, the closest I came to having writer's block probably in the last couple decades was when I quit American Elf. Because I've been drawing that for 14 years and drawing that every day. And it had won a lot of awards and gotten me a lot of, I was pretty sure before I started it that would probably be the best thing that I had ever done. And when I finished it, I was pretty sure that I could never do anything that good ever again. So then I had to draw something else, and if it's not going to be as good, what's the point of drawing it, right? But I also really didn't want to give up my spot in the 7 Days newspaper. I was afraid if I said, okay, I'm done, if I later decided I wanted that spot back, that they would have that spot filled with some other cartoonist. So I just started drawing the Fungus strips just because I didn't want to give up the spot, but I didn't really have any ideas. So I just started drawing. And I have to draw the strip every week because if I don't, I'll lose my spot. So I was able to combat that feeling of writer's block by just writing. I just decided, for this strip, it doesn't matter if it's not as good as American Elf.
I'm going to ask you about the panel.
Okay. I'll give a different answer. Any other questions? Yes.
How did moving from being a photocopy style cartoonist to being someone who does a lot of digital kind of work change your? It doesn't seem to have changed your style at all. But how did it change for you the way that you approach what you're drawing?
Well, it actually changed it. It actually did change it quite a bit. I didn't really show a lot of my pre-computer drawings up here. So you didn't really get to see the whole career, I guess. But certainly being able to easily add color to the drawings changed the way that I worked. At first, I used a lot of heavy blacks in the beginning when I was just drawing in black and white, more like this, right? Which have these deep blacks in the background. The drawings were a lot airier once I started adding color because the structure that this black background gives, I was adding with the color in the color drawings. But now actually in this, these blacks are not in the original drawings either. Now I'm adding the blacks in Photoshop on the computer rather than, I would spend hours just carefully inking in the backgrounds. And now I don't have to do that, which makes the actual physical artwork less like a work of art. It's more like a nearly finished schematic for the final artwork, which is done on the computer. I don't know. That was kind of answers the question, right? I hope. No. Ask the question again, and I'll give it one more try.
How are you changing from working on a page to working on a computer change your style or change your approach to drawing?
Well, I guess the real answer is not that much because I still draw on paper. Yeah, I'm still drawing with a brush and India ink on paper. And then I just scan it in to, the main reason I scanned it in is because I need the digital files to send to the publisher. I mean, I could send them the original art, but it seems like an unnecessary step. And it could all be lost. If I could FedEx the original art to the publisher, and if it was all lost, that's the end of it, right? I'd have to start the book over. So scanning is good. Also I can scan it. This is not really an answer to your question, but I can scan the artwork, right? And as I'm working on the book and I'm scanning it, I'm uploading it to Dropbox on the internet. So if my house burns down, I don't lose the book that I'm working on. I still have it, which is something that I would worry about all the time before. Like if you spend a year or a couple years working on a book and the house burns down, then you have to start the whole book over. And then I think about like, well, what if the family died too? And I had to draw the book over. There's no way I could possibly draw the book over while I was mourning my family. Yeah, it's better not to spend too much time thinking about that stuff. Yes?
Chris Ware talks about comics and their, like, as a language, and where the guiding string is this kind of invisible music.
Mm-hmm.
In your comics, if you ever think about music, you are a musician, so like you think about rhythm a lot. What does your comics invisible music sound like?
Oh. Well, I don't think it's really that much like music. I can understand why he would describe that, because there's something happening, right, while you're drawing the comic, but you can't really explain what that is, right? And music is kind of close, but it's not really music. So it doesn't sound like anything. But there's a certain headspace that you're in.
More specifically, like going towards the Walt Whitman, the poetry, the rhythms, in terms of that musicality, are there rhythms in the making process, in the writing, that you find like just really, really attractive, particularly on the 2x2 grid?
I couldn't tell you what my favorites are. No. No. In this, I really like, and in my graphic novels, but particularly in the strip, I think a lot about rhythm, about the rhythm of these two pages that go together in the strip. And I usually really like to start with we're kind of in mid-page here. Let me try and get to like the whole strip. Okay, so here's a whole individual strip together. I often like to do this big panel, either one or two small panels, and then another big panel, which actually strikes me as slightly awkward in the column, but on the two pages facing each other, it makes a nice rhythm of big, small, small, big. So that's something I like, yeah. I also like to start and end chapters on big panels, too. Really like to end a chapter, if possible, on a full page panel. I often don't, but I like it when I can. Yes?
Do your kids know what they want to do when they grow up? Be like Daddy?
Well, they say they do, but who knows? But my son Eli has drawn quite a few comic books, and you can actually buy them at Earth Prime Comics. If you go into Earth Prime, there's the counter, and then just to the right of the counter, near the ground, there's a lot of local people have comics there. And Earth Prime has been really nice. When they sell people's comics, they don't take a cent of the money. They put it all in an envelope and save it for the cartoonist. So they're not even taking a cut. So if you buy one of Eli's books, all the money will go to Eli. Yes?
Why the identification with an elf? Why not a dwarf? Why not a Lorkian, a fictional kind of thing? When did that start?
Well, in one of those mini comics that I showed, we should go back to that page. Let me see if I can. I had been drawing, that's big. In the interim period between when I was drawing comics when I had kind of taken a break from drawing comics, I got really into oil painting. But I was painting a lot of I don't know how to do it. Control L. Anyhow, I was drawing. Well, that's the wrong question. I'm answering the question wrong. But anyhow, here you see, like here I'm kind of drawing like a human guy, right? And then in the middle there, it's kind of like more realistic. But I think the first comic with the elves was that one on the middle left. And I had drawn, some kind of like revealing comic about my childhood, and just wanted a way to do that without, saying this is me. So I came up with this other character. But then pretty soon I became brave enough to just say, actually, that is me. That's not a little elf. That's actually me. But also the elf, like in this particular story, the elf signified some kind of like, magic, obviously, right? Also signified some innocence. Yes. I consider myself some kind of, I don't know, it's a way of expressing, I portrayed myself as an innocent that the world had wronged, right? Right. So that's why I draw myself as the elf and everyone else as something else.
Quite a wizard or a warrior.
Right, right. Now that I've stopped drawing American Elf and drawing Glorkian Warrior, I really feel like Glorkian Warrior is me. Like, now when I sit down to draw a self-portrait, I kind of want to draw Glorkian Warrior instead of the elf guy. I might start doing that. Yeah. Any other questions? What time is it? Oh, I should stop then, so I can go out and sell books. Thank you.